Varsha, can you please?
Varsha cannot hear you.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from P Manifold. This is Varsha. And welcome to the webinar, Pivot to Sustainability, Electrification of Mining Industry. We gather here today to talk about the future of mining, a future that leans towards sustainable energy. As an industry with significant environmental impact, mining stands at the brink of a transformative change, shifting to more sustainable operations via electrification. Our discussion today will pivot around dissecting mining operations, understanding emission sources, discussing sustainable pathways towards decarbonization, and the numerous benefits of electrification. Thank you for joining us today as we delve deeper into these topics with our industry veterans present over here, exploring the crucial aspects of the electrification trends in mining, cost economics, market needs, challenges, and opportunities. Syed, we can move on to the next slide, please.
Just a second.
So today we have joining with us Mr. Ashish Kulkarni from the mining operations side, Mr. Yuvraj Sharda from supply side of the truck industry, and Mr. Raghavendra Maheshwar, a truck fleet operator. Mr. Ashish Kulkarni, the mining and raw materials head at Dalmia Cement, with experience in CSR, especially sustainable development, has over 17 plus years of experience in the field of mining operations, management, and business development. He is an expert in new greenfield as well as brownfield mine projects. His expertise also spans in the areas of coal block auction, budget planning, and clearance of forest proposals. Next, we have Mr. Yuvraj Sardha, the head of e-mobility solutions at Volvo CE. He is a dedicated professional in the field of sustainable mobility with strong expertise in EVs spanning over a decade. Recently, he has been recognized as 40 under 40 by eMobility Plus for his significant contributions to the Indian electromobility space, shaping the development of NEMMP 2020, the FAME scheme, and state EV policies for regions including Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Delhi. And we have Mr. Raghavendra Maheshwar, co-founder at Move Technologies, who has over 15 plus years of experience working with the industry in heavy-duty electric vehicles in regional haul segment, automated commercial transportation system for airports and ports, solar open access, and energy load monitoring, fuel cells, and other clean technologies in environmental domains. He is currently operating trucks in the cement industry and is about to launch a fleet of 15 e-trucks. So I would welcome all the panelists to this webinar, and we are looking forward to the discussion. And thanks to all the participants as well for joining with us today. Before we go on to the discussions, we will first present a short presentation on the background and electrification possibilities of the mining industry. And here it goes. Mining, a sector at the epicenter of global economic development, is equally crucial for the energy sector. Despite contributing approximately 2.5% of the world GDP, worth 5.9 trillion USD, mining is responsible for 6.2% of total worldwide energy consumption, contributing 4 to 7% of global GHG emissions. The industry is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 8.5% by 2028, altogether compounding these challenges. The diesel-powered operations within mining contribute significantly to this energy consumption and environmental damage, leading to substantial environmental damages costing approximately 5 trillion USD annually. And recognizing these need for change in the industry, the International Council on Mining and Metals has collectively committed to net zero scope 1 and 2 GHG emissions by 2050. However, the biggest chunk that still remains are the scope 3 emissions. But there's a more sustainable path forward, and that path is electrification, a transformative solution that requires a thorough understanding of typical mining operation to ascertain its potential. It is fundamental to strategically identify which aspects can be transitioned initially, and which elements may necessitate gradual change in the future. Much like the proverbial Rome did not emerge in a day, the transition towards electrification too will prompt progressively advanced over the time. Mining operations encompass a range of activities, including production, screening, crushing, stocking, loading, and transportation. Now, these operations use a wide array of equipment segmented by category, by application, power output, and vehicle type. While we have made progress in somewhat electrifying the processing side of mining operations involving crushing and beneficiation, it is essential to address the significant sources of emission. These are predominantly from diesel and non renewable electricity generation. Haulage trucks, being the largest contributor, account for 35% of emissions, followed by crushing equipment at 25%. Bulldozers contribute 5%, with excavators representing 4% of the emissions. Now, this challenges us to focus on the electrification of hauling and loading facilities as well as inside mine operations. Implementing electrification in these areas marks the beginning of our transition towards reduced emission and a more sustainable future. Now, let us delve into how we can decarbonize the mining sector. Decarbonizing the mining sector can be approached through various avenues, including improving efficiency, utilizing renewable energy, and adopting sustainable drivetrain technologies. In short term, transitioning from diesel or gas powered operations to electricity, accompanied by optimizing operational processes, can enhance energy efficiency. Medium term action may involve integrating low carbon electricity or renewable energy sources into existing operations and thereby significantly reducing the industry's environmental impact. In long term, we may look into adoption of fuel cell electric trucks and other equipment fueled by hydrogen, and they can further contribute to the sustainability. Although the transition to electrification requires upfront investment and mature technological readiness, it offers substantial benefits such as reduced emissions, lower maintenance costs, improved reliability, and minimized downtime. However, electrification goes beyond cost and environmental considerations. It also prioritizes the well being of workers and communities by reducing noise and vibration, thereby creating safer and more comfortable working conditions. Now, a future with electrification holds growth opportunities for the mining industry. Many leading mining companies have already acted. Out of the top 30 mining companies, 11 have implemented plans to achieve a net zero emissions future. Companies like Goldfield and BHP already have specific targets, aiming for a significant reduction in GHG emissions by 2030. While these mining companies focus on their individual targets, sectoral decarbonization approach is definitely targeting to reduce carbon intensity around 87% by 2050. To conclude, the mining industry has a responsibility to address its environmental impact. By embracing electrification, improving efficiency, and using cleaner energy sources, we can make significant strides towards a more sustainable future. With this background, let us delve deeper into what our speakers have to offer regarding the role of electrification in mining, the cost economics, collaboration initiatives, market needs, and the unique aspects of mining use case electrification. So that's all with the presentation. Now we shall start with our questions, and followed by the round of questions, we can have a question and answer session from the panelists as well. So first of all, Mr. Ashish, from your experience in the mining operations, could you please provide insights on the hard realities, the typical equipment used, the diesel consumption, and decarbonization opportunities in the mining sector?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thanks, Barsha, for introducing us and making us give the opportunity to speak something on the mining sector, which is a core sector for the Indian growth and our economy. So, starting with the mining, so just I want to say to the my panels and listening auditors and sort of thing. If mining, it is an art of extraction of valuable minerals from the earth. And for to grow the economy, it's been a very much valuable. So there are two ways of mining in India or abroad. It is an open cast mining as well as underground mining. So in open cast minings, all the cement sectors where I'm right now working, been involved. Most of the Hindustan Zinc, then Vedanta also are going to the open cast. But when there is a feasibility up to 100 meter, 200 meters only, that we can go for the 100 meter. If it is beyond 100 meters, then absolutely we have to go with the underground. So these are the para of the mines. Yeah, coming down to the mining. Basically, right now in India or abroad, we can say down going for the any change and all sort of things is very difficult. Right now, we have been working with the dumper. We can say typically a dumper shovel or truck shovel combination and working the mine. So mines, there are these are the two important things where we have been working down. Another to that, there is a conveyor systems or in transportation systems and crusher systems are. So in everything, we have been interrogated with the diesel consumption and all sort of things. So one of the renewable source, you can say now diesel as a fuel is the main important fuel for the mining sector. The reason we can say that it is a bottleneck where we have to think as a mining engineer or a mining panelist or anything, we have to thoroughly think on this particular thing. So in our Dalme, where I'm right now working, we have been very emphasized and put down that we have taken a number of initiatives in the field of mining and as well as in the plant and sort of thing. So we have been the first major company in the cement sector who has been declared that will be coming down as a negative carbon by year 2030 and 40. For that, what has to be requested, what has to be done, we have been laid down the roadmap and also. So coming down to the mining, basically the biggest challenge in the mining are the mineral geology. So when we are thinking about mineral geology, might be probabilities are there ki making the mineral available for the mining or sort of thing. A little bit challenging. And for that, we are now using only a compatible commercial method of mining that is a diesel and mining equipment and we're working on particular. So other than that, we can say that there are a number of challenges in mining where we are facing right now. One is the availability of the mineral. It's been going down in the depth. So going in for the mining, it's particularly a little bit of tougher. So other than that, when we come down with the this one operating cost, yeah, directly it has been operating cost is directly impacting to my the cost of my company as well as the cost of my cement I'm producing right now. So this is a major challenge where we can say that if in mining I can able to save down near about zero point 0.2 or 0.3 percentage, if 3 or 2%, sorry, that can be really valued for my company and can make a benefit of that particular. Second, third challenge is there the fuel price volatility. And you can see that in mining, fossil fuel price volatility increasing like anything. So making down each and everything in a fossil fuel, it costs us. And if any other sources of energy is there, then we have to literally look on that. So other that, other than that, we have been facing a problem of a labor. Right now in a mining, it's been a typical problem of a availability and getting the labor. So continuously working on the labor, it's really a painful. Other than that, when we are using a diesels and all sort of thing, there is a little bit of theft problem also. So, so these are the major bulk challenges. Other than that, there are operational problems related to quality and quantity. This is the why society not going. So these are the major key challenges in the mining where I can just sustain that. Other than that, when we are going for the underground mines also, little bit, it's very tougher. In open cast mine, it's okay, fine. I am taking this are the n number of challenges. In underground mines, bigger problems are there, working in very cohesive atmosphere. That to working with the fuel, working with the emissions, that will not only cost to the health and safety, but that may also come down to my productivity and production costs and absolutely my costing figures and all sort of things. So keeping in the mind all sort of problems, I can say that now as a mining person, as a mining, we have to be in a change role where we can just emphasize the eliminate eliminate the not only the 100% but eliminate little part of the diesel or fuel consumption and can we go on the electrification mode. So this is what we can have right now and how to go. There are a number of things we can just discuss way where we can just move in the panel further. So how the challenges and just one thought and one thing I want to just share where I was having the previous experience. We were working, means our management was pulled out and said that "Okay, now we have to go with the electrification mode." So one of the things where we started using electric shower, that was somewhere in MP, where we use the electrical shower. Really, I can say that the value and the productivity and the cost, it has tremendously helped out. Means I was getting a cost per ton for the diesel 10 rupees or 11 rupees per ton for my loading equipment. But when I started using this electric shower, I can say you unanimously it has come down to 2.5 rupees per ton. So unit consumption of the shovel was very less, electrification mode, and we were using. But challenges where we can, the challenge where we were facing lot of problem was we needed a continuous supply of low tension 11 kV or something line was should be there. Other than that, we needed a continuous backup of the electrification. If somewhere electric is been disconnected or something. Other than that, the electric shovels were having a cable where you used to get a cable length of only 300 meters, not more than that. So if in operation in all sort of thing, if something goes wrong, we have to put a gate and gate box and move that gate and box with all sort of planning. If something goes wrong, then we have to cut the cable, reduce the length, and come down to short. So this challenge in working months, working pit, it's really a big challenge. So can just I suggest to Yuvraj and Raghavendra if any sort of solutions for this particular thing is there, any battery is there, only we can operate any battery or stuff. Other than that, one of the challenge where we're facing a lot was the temperature problem. Hereby in Maharashtra and MP, we can say down that temperature in summer is very peak. It goes down to 48 to 49 degrees. So using of that cables and also the thing literally a unsafe thing because I saw a fire in that and we were literally not able to operate the machines for 1.5 months or two because getting the spares and getting the use. So these are the typical challenges if we are going for the electrification, particularly in the open cast or any sort of thing. Other than that, we can, I request Yuvrajji and then just throw on the light how we can make it possible and come out with the electrification solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish, for your perspective. So what we have understood that the challenges lies in the depth of the mining extraction based on open pit and underground. Also, we have understood that in terms of underground mining operations, there is a lot of emissions, which in turn impacts the productivity and the health of the workers. And further, from your use of electric shovels, we have understood that there are certain safety related challenges, and then also the length of the wire is a concern. So,
Agree.
Mr. Yuvraj, as you bring a fresh perspective to the mining sector in your so far experience of working with Volvo, how do you feel are the decarbonization opportunities in the industry? And could you please reflect upon the economics of solutions for the end users in this context, and as well reflect upon what Mr. Ashish had to offer earlier?
Sure. Thank you so much, Barsha and the Manifold team for setting this platform for bringing a very important and impactful topic to the surface. I would like to kind of thank Ashish ji for bringing all these points, which are very very practical and relevant challenges that we have also been observing as we are seeing to try and deploy electric solutions in mining operations, right? When it comes to, I would want to just take a step back, Barsha, before I start to answer specifics about what Ashish ji brought up or what you are asking. I want to broadly talk about that off highway as a segment, itself is kind of nascent in terms of its electrification journey. So in India, last 6 years, we've been largely as a country focused on electric two-wheelers, electric three-wheelers, some electric commercial vehicles, and a few electric cars. And now with the Pradhan Mantri e-bus Seva, the focus will be largely on electric buses, right? When it comes to off-highway machineries, trucks, construction equipment, this industry, because of its inherent challenges, itself was never kind of considered for electrification as a candidate in Indian context. And even now, when we talk about solutions, their economic viability, we see there are some gaps, right, which we are trying to fill. As Volvo Group, where we are coming from is that we have a commitment towards sustainability, and towards that we are ensuring that our entire product portfolio over time goes towards sustainably powered solutions, right? And that may mean that not necessarily electric as a technology will be there. We are looking at we are looking at a bouquet of technologies. We believe that every application and every machine category comes with its own challenge, and there is no one solution that can work with with all such applications. So we are coming up with we are looking at, first of all, battery electric as one category or technology which can be applied to certain set of machines, like for example compact excavators, where the battery sizes are similar to that of a car, or certain low, you can say, compact field loaders, where we see similar kind of battery packs. Then comes cable electric, you know that beyond battery electric, uh, there are certain, Ashish rightly mentioned about the challenges of certain of these machines, but we believe that we will have to look at these heavy machineries, especially in certain parts of the mine, to be powered by cable, right? And we do understand there will be some challenges in terms of moving the machine, and when the bench is being changed, and when you move from one bench to the other. So for that, there can be some complementary technologies, such as a mobile power bank can be supported to be able to look at being able to power it not just by cable but also by an auxiliary source for moving the machine or for changing the work. Then we are also looking at hydrogen as a technology. We are looking at hydrogen in both the forms: hydrogen directly or indirectly injected into engines, because hydrogen as a fuel has more energy density, and it can kind of power bigger class machines. And for the machines which, you know the way I see, there is on say there is a I see that as a chart where on y-axis you have the energy consumption of the machine or the equipment. On the x-axis, you have the number of hours it is getting operational, right? So as you move on both x and y-axis with higher energy consumption and more number of days per number of hours per day, you would need you cannot do with batteries, electric. That's where, to what Ashish ji mentioned, that we need solution for these kind of applications. So there we are looking at technologies like hydrogen in both direct injection or indirect injection, or even fuel cell technologies, which can not just be used for running the machine, but they can also be swapped, you know and changed, so that the machine operations can continue for 22 hours, because some of these production machines are expected to run that many hours. Then, so these are all the technologies that we are looking from the zero emission point of view. But there can also be a set of technologies which may not necessarily give you zero emission, but lower emission than diesel. Like for example, alternate fuels. There are, recently in G20, Nitin Gadkari ji has called, through, basically he is the champion of biofuels in India, and our country kind of signed for something called as Global Biofuel Alliance, GBA, right? So there are several biofuels which can be used to power the same or a modified diesel engine, and kind of be supported in these kind of applications. So we are also working on those technologies, like using methanol as a fuel, or using biodiesel as a fuel, HVO, FAME, etc. And then you have we are looking at hybrids, because there can be certain applications where it is not necessary, because of the complexity of work. You cannot have big enough battery, you cannot have a cable, but you can manage with a small battery for repetitive work. And for complex work you can use fuel, right? It could be a biofuel, or it could be a diesel, but this will give you lower emissions. And then comes the last is, how do we make the whole machine more efficient, right? Eventually it's how much energy is consumed to dig a hole or to move a mountain. So the idea is, how do we use less energy by making the whole system more efficient, bringing in efficiency in hydraulics, using brake energy recuperation. So Volvo Group is working on these set of technologies across portfolio to be able to offer solutions which are relevant and which are able to solve the complex challenges that are there, with respect to mining as a work site, right? And I will give you now some specific examples of the two products that we've launched in India as a start. In India, we've started with we this year in BaumaCon Expo, we've launched two electric products. First product is basically a compact excavator, not necessarily a typical mining, production machine, but in most of these mines, they would have a backhoe loader or a small excavator to do a lot of utility jobs. You need to do some trenching, you need to move some extra material, you need to do some cleanup work. So there is today a JCB backhoe loader is very commonly used for those applications. Right? We are there kind of pitching for a electric compact excavator, which can in a simpler manner reduce emissions, not to the extent of what a mining equipment would do, but at least it's a beginning of something that mining industry can start to think about. How do we use electric in something which is non-critical operation? That gives us a learning. Okay, how do we set up charging station? How do we keep safety? How do we maintain the machine? How do we make the operator familiarize with the machine? So that is a product we believe can enable the customer to start quickly without risking their core business. Second, we have something called as a 5.5-ton wheel loader. Now that's a machine with a lot of mines kind of use. Very commonly used 5-ton wheel loader, which uses to kind of material rehandling, for stacking, and multiple jobs. We That is coming from a sister company or our group company called SDLG. Now that machine is offering 8 hours of autonomy, and it kind of uh, you know can act as a production machine, or can support the production operation for rehandling, etc. So uh, that product is something we've started to deploy. We've already deployed that in Sagar Cements, where it is being used for material rehandling. We've deployed that in there's a company called Bajrang Power, and we are now working with many other cement manufacturers. In fact, also with Dalmia, in some conversation I'm sure is going on. And that's a machine that is kind of again offered, that is purely battery electric, and we've packaged two 82 kilowatt hour of battery pack, which is, just to give you a perspective, that battery pack is as big or slightly bigger than what you would have in a typical bus. Right? That kind of a battery pack has been put to give confidence to the customer. This machine can operate for 8 hours. This can run a shift. During the shift, after the shift, when the operator takes a break, that is the time when you recharge. The machine can be fast charged in an hour. And so that's like 8 hours of work, 1 hour of charging, again 8 hours of work, 1 hour of charging. So that can give you that 22 hours of run, and support this. So we've started with this humble beginning as a company, and we believe that there is not going to be one technology, not just regular electric. There has to be a bouquet of technology, because eventually all these companies, they have certain operating cost economics, and we need to meet that, right? And for that, we cannot offer solution which is purely that okay, we'll package 500 kilowatt hour of battery pack, making the machine 5 times more expensive, and then there's no buyer for it. So we are using combination to be able to offer machines which are economically viable, right? And this is right the beginning. So right now it is in few numbers which are definitely under 50, but when these same numbers reach 500 or 1000, right, that's when the economies of scale kick in, the prices start to go lower, and it starts to create that virtuous cycle, right? But like to answer to Ashish's point on diesel, right, these machines um, safeguard you as an organization against the fluctuation of diesel prices, because once you take these electric machines for 3-4 years, your operating cost is kind of fixed, and you don't have to really worry about also maintenance cost is very low compared to our diesel machine. So that's how we have as an organization started to offer solutions. Some of them are not not really part of the production side, which is those compact excavators, but some of them are supporting the production. And in future we are also, we would like to collaborate with companies like Dalmia Cements to really understand the problems and work with them at a site solution level rather than just offering a random machine. We would want to understand how your site is, how can we work with you in setting up charging infrastructure, a combination of machines, combination of technologies which can help you achieve your sustainability goals without any pinch to your pocket. That's my initial comment, and happy to deliberate more.
Thank you, Mr. Yuvraj. So, you have pointed out correctly that the economies of scale is very important here, as well as every mining site is different, every equipment is different, and every technology that would be used for these equipments or for the mining based decarbonization, that will be tailored specifically to a certain site, to a certain company. So, with that perspective on the equipments, I would like to know your views, Mr. Raghavendra. Based on your experience in the ZET sector, could you elaborate on the truck electrification needs and the opportunities in the industry, and what could be the possible solutions around them?
Thank you, Varsha. So definitely great to be on this panel along with Mr. Ashish Kulkarni and Mr. Yuvraj. They definitely bring in a lot of perspective, both from, let's say, the cement industry side as well as the OEM side. What we have been specifically looking at is combining both the requirements of the cement industry or the OEM. So we've been looking at the overall, let's say, taking systems engineering kind of an approach to see where electrification of these vehicles. So I'll limit my discussions to the vehicles because mining, as both the gentlemen have already alluded, the equipments there go beyond just the trucks, right? So limiting my discussion to to the trucks itself, as Ashish ji mentioned, each mine is different within the same industry, and mines as a whole are very different as well. The requirements of, let's say, a mine, a coal mine, is completely different from the requirements of a cement mine, right? And within cement mine, I have visited a mine where the depth of the mine, it's a surface mine, doesn't go below 10 meters from the surface level, right? And I've been to a site where the depth goes, starts only at 50 meters, below the surface level. So the moment we, factor in these two completely different environments within the cement industry, the challenges or the technology capability that the vehicle needs to have are completely different, because with depth, your gradients, everything increases. Your it has to be a lot more rigid and sturdy to to handle those kind of environments. And mind you, when we're talking about electrification of heavy vehicles, heavy vehicle electrification is at nascent stage, and mining is the most hardest environment that we can think about, right? So coming from a clean tech background, taking looking at it as a system engineering as well as looking at from a first principle perspective, there are both advantages and disadvantages when we come to the mining, electrification in the mining segments. As Ashish ji mentioned, many of the mines, prefer to go for a heavy tonnage vehicles because it is, at the end of the day, it's cheaper on a cost per ton basis, right? And typically where they use dumpers, it's definitely very, very economical to run a 90 to 100, a dumper which carries a 90 to 100 ton payload in a single trip, right? And replacing for the industry to replace that with a, let's say, lower tonnage vehicle is a different, difficult proposition for the industry to consider, right? But at the same time, there are mines where for various reasons, industry uses, let's say, 10-wheeler or two-wheeler, 12-wheeler, right? So there, there are definitely cases where electrification of these heavy-duty trucks is great proposition, and wherever these kind of vehicles are already utilized, it becomes a bit easier to do let's say cost to cost kind of comparison, and look at what all beyond, let's say, both the technical as well as commercial aspects. We can look at the system as a whole and see which are the cases where we can start deploying electric vehicles, right? Given this is one of the biggest advantage with in mining segment, because it is a rigid very, very harsh environment with a very, very let's say tough terrain, the mileage of these vehicles even on a diesel is very, very low, right? So the more diesel we replace with alternative, let's say electric, more let's say a better case it becomes for electrification. And industry typically runs 24/7. Ashish ji, I've had the opportunity to meet some of their colleagues as well. They run 24/7. Even if you go at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the night, you'll see trucks running, you'll see mines running, right? So it is a definitely great case to electrify in this segment, given the nature of the this one. But at the same time, I have had visited some of the mines where there is no electric connection at all to begin with. Even some of the equipments that they run are powered by diesel generators, right? So in that scenario, even if you bring in electric vehicles, how do we charge it? Because mine as a whole is a developing or evolving let's say geography, and providing electrification is a bit of a challenge given all the terrains and everything, especially when we look at large mines, or let's say like a coal mine specifically, right? At the same time, on the other side, we can also make a case that electrification has happened in the mine, in the cement kind of mining industries, because once mine achieves certain scale and capacity, it is always economical for the cement industry, let's say, to transition to the conveyor belt kind of system, which is electric to begin with, right? So electrification of vehicles in a mining is a definitely a vast segment to look at. But yes, within that vast segment, there are use cases where electrification can be done today itself, where it is definitely very, very cost effective to begin with. And at the same time, we have to factor all the other factors that come beyond both the technical or commercial aspects that come in as well. Because whenever we consider a transition to a new kind of a solution, be it electric or any other, we have to get the buy-in from all the stakeholders as well, right? So so we have to look at system as a whole. And yes, just to summarize, it is definitely a great segment to look at purely from the both from the first principles as well as looking at system as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Raghavendra. So we have now understood what kind of challenges a mine poses in terms of its terrain, in terms of the environment. The electrification is not available there in certain mines. So you have well explained that. So now, hearing the perspectives of the wide array of solutions from the equipment side as well as the truck side, I would like to come back to Mr. Ashish. Uh, what are the challenges that you think will be to adopt these kind of solutions for a mining operator like you?
Yeah, thanks once again, Bhatta. really pointed out very good points from Yuvraj as well as from Raghavendra. It's really a practical thing what has been done in mind. What Yuvraj also told, we are going with the initial phase of electrification, that is coming out with the miscellaneous machines. So that cannot be used in production as a what I can say. So what I can say in that particular thing is that what Yuvraj said is practically is absolutely right. But when it is part of production, because major thrust is there on the economy mode on the my production. So whatever production I've done, I will do that will be beneficial for my upgoing cement industry or any other. So what I can say that key electrification is okay, but what major challenge is that key I said a geology part, because right now what we are winning out from the mines is a stone. The density of stone is 2.5, whereas in iron it goes to 3. So whenever you go with the valuable minerals, it goes on. So in that time, electrification might be a challenge because you are putting the whole machine, means whole thing in a system and putting out. Okay, now we have to work with electrification, but in that case, might be probabilities are there that could not be work. But taking down the challenge right now, just what we have done, right? We have started with electrification. We have started with the solar lighting all over the mine. We have started with the solar, this one initiative. Other than that, for cost saving initiative, if we are not able to go with the electrification, we have started using biodiesels as well as a heat excel diesel, where the cost of the diesel is near about 10-15 rupees. So initial high HSD diesel we are getting at 93, 94, and this we are getting out on 74, 75 rupees. So that's initial this one, but this should not go for a long run. We have to think for a solution and we have to go with something. So this is the major challenge. Other than that, what Raghavendra also said that electrification needs some sort of battery charger. You need a point. So rightly, when I talked and initially I told you we should have some sort of electrical setup. For example, I should have a substation there. I should have an electrical equipment, electrical this one. So for any sort of backup, I should be ready. If I am emphasizing that one. Other than that, rightly said with the Uraj, we have started also one truck. That is not electrified truck. We have started with the LNG truck for this one, taking our cement to other place. That is 150 kilometers to 200 kilometers. It run in a one fleet. So after that, in LNG we have started. So replacing the diesel and coming down with the alternate solution. And what other thing we are talking about alternate fuel resource. Absolutely, in our cement plant, most of the cement plant might be using, we are using AFR, alternate fuel resource like Jethro and also we are putting directly in the kiln. So this is the major chunk where we can just help in decarbonization and make the CO2 emissions very less. So this two or three things what we have been started down and rightly said, we are in the mode see how to make a use of electrification because our main motto of our company, Dalme Cement, we are saying that by 2030-40 we will be a zero negative and we have laid down the roadmap for each and every activity. So one of the part of that is electrical vehicles, usage of electrical vehicles by coming down to 5 to 10 years and mostly to 70 to 80%. So if the thing prevails and all sort of thing goes in right way, we can absolutely come with the solutions with the major trunk of shovel, sand, tipper, what Raghavendra is pointing out. If we are using a low tons of dumper and coming down with some absolute solution, which will be a viable for us in working industry also. So combining all thoughts and coming together, yeah. What I can say at initial stage of mining, if we want to go for electrification, yeah, little bit the challenge is there. It will can be implemented to 10 to 15% or 5 to 10% and coming down with the absolute solutions and come with the proper justification answer. Ki, ha, for this fleet or for this density or for this mineral, we can go with this, and for this thing we can go. So that is a very a big plan and big roadmap where we can have a help from Yuvraj, who is the expert down there, and Raghavendra, and make it out. Yeah, we can move with the electrification.
So, thank you, Mr. Ashish, for your perspective on the implementation related challenges, even though we bring in electrification in the equipment and trucks. So, here I would like to delve deeper into the Indian government, with I remember Mr. Yuvraj mentioning that off-highway categories are still at a very nascent stage. So we see that the Indian government has focused on the local ecosystem like two-wheelers, three-wheelers, the majority of vehicles that we are having. And we also understand that for doing so, it has taken us a lot of time. So, from your perspective, Mr. Yuvraj, who do you think will be the first customers to drive this opportunity of decarbonization in the mining sector, specifically in your equipments, construction vehicles, etc.?
So you mean to say which customers are going to be the early adopters for this, or
Yeah,
you're
like
talking from
which
the government point of view?
sectors? No, which customers?
Got it. So we are clearly seeing traction from the cement industry and steel industry. These two industries are under tremendous pressure by the regulatory authorities uh, to reduce their GHG emissions. Also, if you look at from India's point of view, as a country, we have signed up for net zero by 2070 in the COP 26. So government is also targeting which are those major contributors to GHG emissions, and how do we address them? How do we drive them? Because they may take longer time to fully shift. So they need to be they need to be motivated and encouraged today, so that over time they can, quickly take initiatives. So there is, when we look at, when we talk to cement companies. In fact, just 2 weeks back, I was on a similar discussion at Cement Manufacturers Association, where a lot of cement manufacturers were gathered, and I kind of gave them a perspective of what kind of solutions are available today. So there was so much interest from every cement manufacturer who was saying, how can I find this solution part of my operating, environment? So cement and steel is a clear, uh, basically industry which is having the pull. Apart from that, in that also, there are certain corporate customers who have taken ambitions, publicly announced, that they have signed up for, say, science-based target initiatives, or they've signed up for net zero ambition, and they have a particular date to themselves. Somebody's 2050, somebody's 2035, 20, somebody's 2040. There is a clear announcement, and there is a organizational level KPI distribution towards sustainability initiatives. So those corporates are even more receptive when we are talking about, these kind of solutions. See, one thing needs to be really understood, that if electric construction machines, or say electric trucks, which Raghavendra ji was talking about, are so, if they were so economically viable, they would have been selling like hotcakes. But the reality is, there are today a few operational challenges and hurdles that these technologies need to pass. There is a technology adoption curve that they need to kind of cover. There is an economic viability today which needs to be supported partly by OEM, supported by some government, or maybe those initial adopter customers who are willing to say, I want to try, I'm willing to put in 10% more, right? Because that is where we stand as an industry. That's the reality, right? It is not that, okay, it is available in plenty, it is a commodity, it is you know it is exactly at the price of diesel. No, electrics are expensive, even in cars. So in trucks it is even more expensive, in construction equipment it is even more expensive, right? uh, in construction equipment and trucks, the kind of power requirements are there. You can't package the battery to meet the autonomy that a diesel equivalent will have. You can't technically, sometimes meet the kind of operating requirements that are there. So there has to be a little bit of compromise on terms of, okay, I understand that maybe, say for example, for our compact excavator, today, the operating range, or the range per charge, is between 4 to 6 hours. Maybe, in some conditions, it can go to 7 hours. The standard expectation from the diesel is 10 hours of continuous work. So our initial set of customers are willing to accommodate this 4 hours. They are willing to fine tune their operation, that after every 4 hour or 5 hour of work, they are allowing for a break for charging. They are accommodating for setting up of a fast charger inside their premises, right? So, the early customers are showing their responsibility. They are going the extra mile to adopt these solutions, right? And that's where that collaboration comes into play, because OEM is trying to introduce a new technology, and OEM is also investing in that process of introduction. There are initial set of customers who are saying, okay, I'm willing to go an extra mile to support this deployment. I'm willing to try a new technology. I am willing to put in more resources to support this program. I'm willing to put in extra money to get such a technology to support my ambition. And then there are ecosystem players. There are financiers, there are fleet operators who are trying to also add value to kind of make this whole system work. So this is how you're going to make it work for the first few years. Once we cross the early adopter stage, and once we cross the chasm and we move to the early majority stage, that's when the economics are already proven, the technology and the business model has gone through 3 season cycle, and there are few customers who are giving testimonials that I have tried it, I've been using electric for 1 year, I don't have any challenge, I now my operator is happy, I am happy, etc. And that's when you will get that early majority who are currently at the fence, who are like, okay, let me wait and watch. So those will kind of come in then, right? And sometimes it's a government announcement, which sometimes triggers certain thoughts. Even this recent announcement of Global Biofuel Alliance has suddenly opened up a topic which has been on the side burner for so many years. Every conference, every public place where there is a transportation related activity and Nitin Gadkari ji is there, he talks about biofuels. But now when it has gone to the global stage, there is a lot of talks about, okay, how do we look at investing, how do we look at setting up infrastructure, how do we look at adopting this, how do we look at trialing. Ashish ji mentioned about LNG truck, right? So um, all this, now this one truck may become 5 truck or maybe 15 truck in the next 1 year, because there will be all these ecosystem players will come together, right? So for this kind of technology to get adopted, right, you need government, you need OEMs, you need customers, and you also need other ecosystem players like financiers, fleet operators to be able to come together and kind of get it through. And that is how it happened even in electric 2 3 wheelers. If you look at 5 years back, when electric 3 wheelers were nascent, companies like Amazon, Flipkart, other e-commerce companies said, hey, we want our last mile delivery to be electric. And they said, okay, we will give you space for charging, we will assign only specific routes for electric 3 wheelers, we will force our fleet operators to consider buying electric because we don't buy as a company. And then OEM started to respond, okay, here is a product 1, product 2, I'm now investing in a better product, I will collaborate with you. And now you see it's a full-fledged industry. 60% of all new sales of 3 wheelers in cargo category are electric, because of that ecosystem coming together. So in the initial set of customers, we need to have this kind of a broad ecosystem approach. Partners need to come together, collaborate, and I think there is going to be an inherent benefit for people who've tried first. Although it's more expensive, it's more time taking, there will be learnings, but the people who've done it first will have that learning curve advantage, and they can scale up faster than their peers. So that's what we are also targeting. We are looking to collaborate. In last 3 months, we have partnered with Vedanta Group, where we've signed an MOU for a long-term partnership in working on the sustainability space. We've partnered with Sagar Cement, and again for a long term, and we're looking at how we can partner with many other companies, uh, as a partner. It's like a philosophical thought process that we have signed in a non-binding MOU. We want to work with you, and today we may have certain solutions which are working, maybe not working, but the idea is to work together that in next 18 months we have more solutions for you which are more apt for what your use case is, and we can tweak our product roadmap as per the requirement. If say Ashiji mentions this is the kind of machine cement industry needs, this is the machine where we are willing to put our bet in, can you develop this, right? Can you address the challenges of a grid connected machine of this cable and all that at this class machine? Then we have like 5 more players like me who will consider it. I am happy to tweak my product roadmap and get that machine faster. Then because even I am trying to see, okay, I have a big portfolio of diesel products which I want to electrify over the next 10 years. My question is which one I should bring fast. So my initial set of customers will give me that ideas that I am willing to consider that if you bring this at this price with these features, I'm willing to consider. So I'm coming from that perspective that I am happy to collaborate with these kind of initial customers and tweak my product roadmap and bring those solutions which are more relevant. Because eventually we also, for sustainability, we also have to be in business, and that's for that we need to be able to sell those products.
Thank you, Mr. Yuvraj. You have very rightly highlighted the importance of collaboration, knowledge sharing, as well as investment for bringing in electrification in the mining industry. So, with this, I would like to come back to Mr. Raghavendra. Now that we have understood, okay, what the OEM side needs and what the operators need, so could you please highlight on what could be the supply and policy requirements to spur the decarbonization in mining, and how can the industry be mobilized to seize this opportunity?
Sure. Uh, you know, let's say, taking again experience what we've had, from electric buses, which is like a, comparable, vehicle size. The opportunity is, definitely enormous. I must comment here, not just because Mr. Ashish Kulkarni is here. Dalmia has actually been one of the pioneers in terms of adopting electric heavy-duty trucks. Over the last 1.5 years, I think they've deployed over 10, 15 trucks already in different, geographies within India. There is a lot of demand, as Mr. Ashish was also, saying that, as Mr. Yuvraj was also highlighting, there is this chicken and egg, classic chicken and egg problem where the industry wants, many new technologies that can improve their efficiency and bring the cost down. But again, on the other side, where is the supply coming from, right? So it's a classic supply and demand problem, and given the scenario where we have a diesel price of of close to 90, which is, I would consider it still a bit subsidized overall, and in an industry where diesel is a premium, as Ashish was already highlighting, the actual cost that cement industry, for example, incurs is actually more than what what the petrol pump price is, right? There is a lot of demand, and there is given that this is an area where the end customer is an industry, the kind of support that might be required, that would be required from the government, is also a bit different. Where in the case of bus, where we've seen the end customer at the end of the day is a government entity, be it city RTC or intercity RTC. The customer here being the industry, the kind of incentive structures that might encourage rapid adoption would also be a bit different. In a nutshell, yes, possibly a support, policy support in terms of financing, and given that this is also a nascent industry where we don't have data overall, of a one life cycle of deployment. At least today, we can say that on the buses side, at least there is a 2 to 3 year data, available with the ecosystem, but that doesn't exist with the trucks yet. There is hardly like 1 year kind of a data that is available in these kind of challenging environments, right? So given all this, yes, there is definitely a support that is needed both from early adopters as well as the government. And there is also a lot of OEMs that also need to get involved because there is a lot of demand that is also we are seeing, right? So it's a not just in terms of as again given that Yuvraj comes from the OEM side, their biggest challenge is there is a lot of demand definitely, but which is the first form factor of vehicle that we have to consider and then deploy and scale, right? Given OEM perspective is about scaling before moving into the multiple form factors of vehicles. Yes, the current let's say 20 to 40 tonner kind of it's definitely broad, but yes, this is definitely a sweet segment where there is a lot of opportunity to deploy. Yeah, possibly we can discuss more on Q&A.
Thank you, Mr. Raghavendra. So we have understood that here it is not only just the government, but also the early adapters that have to be very much involved in the sector. And with that, I see certain questions coming in. There are a lot of questions, and let's see how much we can take. So the question is, open to any, all the three of you. In mines, the actual temperature could run up to likes of 60 degrees Celsius or comparable. Is the most popular secondary cell technologies like lithium ion ready for that? I think Mr. Ashish would be uh, the best person to answer this.
Yeah, pardon, you said that rightly 60-degree temperature might be working in Indian scenario, might be a little bit of working on a lithium. I think you have pointed for the lithium, working in lithium.
Lithium ion, yes.
So might be possibilities are there ki electrification, if you are pointing out for electrification. So coming down in that particular thing, we have to particularly think and what I am saying down ki initial phase, how we can make it out. But down ki yes, these are the two things where I can implement these things and just see the performance. For example, I have just installed something electrification in one of the usage metro emissions. First of all, see that how it can be used out and what are the performance, because unless and until I deploy and I'm going ready for the change, I can really never do anything miracle. So my perspective is that whenever we go for the such a thing, we should have a backup thing. Yeah, for this set of things, we have to do one to allow the things to come down and see the performance of the equipment or anything and work it out and what pros and cons are there, because electrification, it's totally a new revolution for the any scenario. So commenting on that particular thing, so we have to be an agent ki these are the things, this for these things, these are the performance parameters. After grabbing of all the parameters and coming down, we can make a things to we can work on. So this is what broadly I can comment on that particular thing.
Let me add
Let
a
me
bit.
kind of, yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I was just trying to add a perspective from being an OEM. When we choose lithium-ion batteries, we do understand, in mining sites, the temperature is definitely higher than the ambient, especially in the pit or in the underground mine. Uh, so there are technologies like LPTO technologies, which is lithium phosphate titanium oxide, right? Which have a higher tolerance, thermal tolerance, you can say, and can manage a raise in temperature. So we kind of say look at those kind of technologies, right? Each of these machines that we are bringing, or even our peers are bringing, there is an advanced thermal management system built in, right? We have to ensure the batteries are cooled while they are operated, because the kind of currents drawn are significantly high compared to what you would see in a two-wheeler, three-wheeler kind of application, right? These are really, really intense applications. So, so there is a lot of work from the technology that we have done in terms of managing the thermal characteristics of the battery both by intrinsically choosing those cells or those chemistries which have a high thermal tolerance, and on top of it adding battery management system which is very smartly cooling the batteries as and when the temperatures hit a certain threshold, right? And the advanced thermal management itself now has become a very very significant R&D research topic, where there are phase change materials, there is liquid cooling, then there is force air cooling, then there are these heat plates. Different kinds of technologies are used based on what the battery technology is, the application is, the sizing available to be able to package that technology. So the answer to that question is yes, the battery technology today can take on the operating characteristics of a mine. It's about packaging it in a certain way which is economically feasible and technically possible to package in that machine, is where the science lies, and different OEMs are working on different strategies to balance that trade-off. Yeah, Raghavendra ji, please add.
Yeah, just one thing while you edit one thing. Apart from that, what Viraj was pointing out, repackaging and other things. But if can be used in underground because temperature as compared to open cast mines and underground there is lot of difference. So in underground mines, certain precautions and what I properly said, he use it for a month and see the performance. But in underground mines, yes, and possibly we can say. And what rightly Yuvraj said, in open cast mines we have to think for some solution where the temperature rises down and how we can fit that equipment battery in that particular equipment and make use. Other than that, if possible, because rightly said we are using mines for we are working in mines for 24 hours. So can it be possible after 7 8 o'clock in the evening can we start working and make it the use of that particular thing and use that lithium cells in use it or something particular. So that can also be done in that manner also.
Sure. So just to add what Yuvraj has already mentioned, uh, both LFP and LT are great chemistries for definitely have a higher tolerance. And today, liquid cooling is more or less norm for heavy duty applications, whether it's buses or trucks. So that way, apart from the temperature, both for dust and rain, water, appropriate IP rating, all the reputed OEMs already take care of with appropriate IP rating applications. But with higher temperature also comes the challenge of more than the battery. With temperature, the challenge is actually in terms of the charging infrastructure, because with higher temperature, the rate of charging kind of slows down. Even the charger from all the reputed OEMs come with appropriate air cooling technologies or even IP protections. So yes, we may have to compromise a bit on the amount of time required to charge, let's say during a very hot summer day, but that does not significantly impact the operations of the vehicle as such.
Thank you. So here I see another question directed to Mr. Yuvraj. Regenerative braking is a key feature in electrified mining trucks. Similarly, what key factors do you perceive as crucial drivers for achieving widespread adoption of electric mining equipment on the technological advancements and design considerations? And also, there is a question on the policy levels. Yes, Mr. Yuvraj.
Sure. So I would first answer the question on features that I think. See, if you look at from a mining operator point of view, he or she would expect same performance without any hassle, right? The expectation is there shouldn't be any drop in productivity. There shouldn't be any gap in operating hours, right? And the machine should have same levels of reliability as the IC equivalent, because that is where the benchmark is. So what we are trying to do is first is trying to benchmark those levels, right? If, for example, the electric wheel loader that we have launched, it is exactly matching. In fact, it is exceeding the performance of its diesel counterpart. if you keep the diesel machine and the electric machine sidewise and you run a continuous production operation, the productivity of electric will be higher because of the instant torque that it delivers, and which makes the operator do more cycles in a lesser fatigue manner. Uh, and autonomy wise, also, we've ensured that there is a battery pack put enough that can give you 8 hours of operation, because this is the shift, right? Why 8 hours? Why not more? Because we understand after 8 hours the operator is also changing. So the expectation is 8 घंटा मशीन चलनी चाहिए, रुकनी नहीं चाहिए, राइट? 8 घंटे के बाद में देर इज अ कंसिडरेशन कि आधा घंटे का ब्रेक होता है. That's where we can. So the expectation is half an hour, while we are asking for an hour. We're saying, okay, we need 1 hour for full charge because it's a huge pack, and to be able to fast charge. And even Raghavendra was mentioning, yes, at summers, fast charging such a big pack could take longer because of the temperatures, right? So what we are doing is we are trying to mimic the diesel machines and say, how do we meet same performance, same operational reliability, and same productivity? And if we are able to do it, it starts to tick the boxes that, okay, this machine is for my considerations. We have a huge demand for the wheel loader that we've launched, uh, because it offers 8 hours of autonomy, right? So that's where we are choosing the right technology, that with what technology combination we can achieve performance equivalent or more than its diesel counterpart. And beyond that, more transparency. Fuel theft is a challenge in certain mines, right? Maybe big corporates have found systems and measures and ways to solve that, but say the smaller guys, or the ones where slightly it is unorganized, fuel theft is still a challenge. So with electric comes transparency, which addresses fuel theft. With electrics, you get more, more data about how the machine has performed, how the productivity has been. So that data adds to more fleet level efficiency. You can create reports, and those reports can really make the fleets more efficient for the operator. So additional things like these add more value beyond what they are doing, right? And also, the fundamental of a electric machine is it is going to be more expensive because you are putting in the cost of battery in it, which is an expensive resource, but there will be a lower operating cost. So the lower the operating cost savings will eventually pay back for the extra cost that you've paid in upfront, right? But there will be still some challenges of upfront purchase. While corporates understand the concept of depreciation, they find ways to be able to leverage that. The smaller SMEs, smaller businesses, they may find upfront cost as a challenge. Sometimes their credit ratings do not enable them to get such high levels of loans. So there needs to be a business model innovation where, like, for example, we offer equipment as a service, where you don't need to put in your money. You just use the machine on a pay per use model, and you can opt for a 6 months, 12 months, uh, 24 months, 36 months, 48 months kind of an agreement on a pay per use model. So there is a fixed monthly rental kind of or lease kind of a fee that is going to be charged, that covers your machine cost, machine insurance, machine finance, machine operations, operator maintenance, and you know basically all the other things around the uptime of machines. So with those extra features and this business model innovation, you can offer a solution which is going to be more appealing than the diesel machine. And of course it needs to be bundled with the charging solution, that how charging has to be placed, how the overall downtime and the dead mile is reduced so that it doesn't cause any intrusion in operation. So our ambition is, when we look at site level solutions, we understand the current operation, we understand the current machine, and we say if we have to put in a diesel and meet the same operating characteristics, what is the best fit of in terms of solution? Where could be the station? Where could be the machine? How many machines has to be there, etc., to meet the same or exceed the same productivity on the policy levels, right? The point you said. See, government needs to first recognize this industry, that this industry exists, and the incentives that are created to drive electrification should also be passed on to this industry. Simple thing, GST on electric construction equipment should be at 5%, at par with electric cars or electric buses or those. Second, uh, government should be able to offer EV tariff to the captive charging points, which are placed to support electric mining machines in the in mines in that area. Today, some of these mines are paying a different industrial rate or maybe some higher rate, whereas electric charging point or EV tariff for electric cars, typically the tariff is around 4.5 rupees or 5 rupees in different states. Registration cost and road tax waiver, that today all your electric scooters, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, they all are uh, not getting charged for any registration fee or road tax. Can that same be applied so that that supports adoption of electric construction equipment or of highway machines, right? uh, there needs to be two more aspects that government needs to consider. There is already an existing fleet. Say, for example, Dalmia Cements. They must be having a huge fleet of diesel machines. Can they shift to electric overnight? The answer is no. But can they find a comprehensive roadmap where they look at new machines to be electric, which are available? Existing machines, can the older ones, which are there, maybe about to about to run out of life, we can't do much about it, so leave them. But the ones which you have recently purchased 1 year 2 year back, can we convert them with a small amount? And can government support that? That can government say, okay, if Dalmia Cement wants to convert their existing fleet of excavators or wheel loaders to electric, we will say subsidize that by 50%. So government subsidizes 50% upfront cost of the kit, and then beyond that there is a operating cost saving which they will get, so the kit pays for itself. So these kind of initiatives government needs to take to be able to make this industry really think about electrification. They need to drive this hydrogen policy which is there. How do we link the hydrogen policy and support this? How do we get access to open access and get renewable energy access to these companies, and get electricity at lower cost? So these are the initiatives that government needs to consider as they are finding. And I've been hearing FAME 3 is coming, new policy for electric is coming. Government needs, the first thing they need to say electric. When I say electric, I'm not just talking about two-wheelers, three-wheelers. It is from 2 wheels to 16 wheels and even tracks. So everything gets covered. So
Thank you, Mr.
that's,
Yuvraj.
Just like
So,
one thing, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt,
Mr.
one thing to be
Ashish.
added on the policy front. Right now, all the MDOs, mining operators, they are paying a huge royalty taxes to the government. I know that for the limestone, I am paying now 106, 107 rupees per ton. So if in government is interrogating in some sort of things, see if MDOs, big MDOs are using this electrifying vehicle, can it be a taxation of royalty can be 1.5 or 1.2 rupees can be added down to the person who is using this electrification? Because right now, one of the things what government is taking as a DMF, district mining fund in every district. So it is a huge, huge collection of that money. So if that part can be saved or that part little bit can be made to the MDOs, they will be little bit benefited, and what I am saying the economic front and all sort of things. So that will be really benefit for the MDOs and the mining operators. So this thing also should government to take in the mind while operating for and going with the change of this electrification.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. So, we have very less time left for this webinar, and there are a lot of questions already there still waiting to be addressed. So, I would request the panelists to please answer very briefly. So, the next question is which specific use case or processes within mining operations hold the highest potential for electrification? what factors are typically considered when evaluating the feasibility of electrifying a particular aspect of mining operations? Yes, anyone would like to pitch in for the answer? Maybe Mr. Raghavendra, it's time we heard from you.
In terms of factors, each we cannot, it would be hard to generalize it. But at the same time, typically all the assumptions that go into, let's say, arriving at a cost per ton basis, because that's the end of the day, the parameter at which the entire industry kind of boils down to, right? So we definitely have to factor, what is the number of operating hours. I mean, though typically industry here, is functioning 24/7. We have to look at what is the operating hours that we can get on a let's say monthly basis, or whatever, on a periodic basis. At the same time, as I said, availability of power is a challenge once we go to the deep mining. But if it's a cement mining where power is definitely available, that would not be a primary concern. But once we go to the deep mining kind of applications, availability of power definitely becomes a big factor. And apart from that, financing, policy side, yes, given the nature of the ecosystem here, again, referencing to the bus ecosystem where the end segment was the government. Here, the end segment is a private industry at the end of the day, right? So any policy, suppose that encourage OEM, whether it's a extension of a FAME scheme to electric trucks, or some kind of extension which encourages OEM to manufacture vehicles at scale, and then also industry to adopt. Given this is again a nascent industry, we definitely have need some risk mitigation measure where for at least for a certain period we definitely need a easier access to financing. Yeah. Any other questions?
So there is
So
one
all
more
these
leading
factors
question.
will definitely go in before we say that this is a good project that we can go ahead and deploy.
So there is one more leading question on the power side, and it goes like this. If power were to be available at 4 rupees, 4 Indian rupees, would it help catalyze the adoption of electrification? And are the adopters willing to initially set it up on a capex model and then going to a RESCO model?
On the power, currently the way most of the, both the central policies and the respective state policies are developed, right? So if the power is, if the power station, let's say, is located within the industrial premises, where it would be considered under captive, let's say, scenario, the tariffs are different. But if it's a, let's say, public charging station, which typically as of today does not exist near the industry kind of a area, there is 4-5 rupees are definitely available already from the state policies, even for a higher transmission line, right? So it's a it's a segment where we have to see where we need to install the charger, where it will be within the premises or somewhere some kind of a public charging station. So depending on that, there is a use case. But irrespective of that, imagine this, right? So in these kind of mining,
Is Mr. Raghavendra audible, Barsha?
No, not to me. I
Okay,
thought
we
I have some connection
lost your
issue.
audio.
Last.
Lost your audio.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? I'm not sure
Yeah.
where I got disconnected.
Yeah.
Now we can.
So just to shorten it, depending on where the charger is, energy is not the substantial cost of the entire TCO here, right? Lower the energy cost is obviously better, but even currently, purely looking at the energy costs, electric is already cheaper by 60-70% here.
Thank you, Mr. Raghavendra. There is one more question on from which countries India might adapt electrification in mining. So I think they are trying to ask if there are any case studies which India can base out of for electrification.
China. The answer is China. Look at China. Last year they sold 4,000 electric wheel loaders. Look at China in terms of their product portfolio. They have electric dumpers, electric tippers, electric trucks, electric excavators, electric wheel loaders. They have everything. They have hydrogen. Uh, they have adoption at mass scale. They have autonomous trucks. There's a company called XCMG. They have showcased autonomous electric mining truck. So there is, I mean, we have a neighbor next door sitting similar economics, similar challenges, similar kind of geography, may not be democracy, but you have so much to learn from them, except that we don't get products from there, but we should learn from them.
Sure, Mr. Yuvraj. So the next question is to Mr. Ashish. So the question goes by, how can we encourage mining operators to transition to electrification? And what are the quantum of emission reduction at the mining site on a daily basis if we are going for electrification?
First of all, I want to just answer how we can encourage the operators. Exactly, starting the initial when we just say that electrification, we can just say out the advantage of stuff. That is a better other than that, what we can encourage to them that what I was talking on the prospect of the schemes, exactly initial cost of implications on the capex will be more on the electrical mode and putting down the burden of the additional capex. That will be a much more. But when we give a roadmap of the payback period, eventually when we are working with diesel, eventually working with the this one electrician. So what are exactly the cost benefit per ton? That will be much more beneficial for them in the long term as compared to the short term of the diesel and also the fuel. So this parameter absolutely will play a vital role. Other than that, we can make operators to make use of electrification in such a manner that initially for their what we were just having a whole sort of discussion that initially 5 to 10% of the thing can be materialized and come down to electrification mode. Other than that, for the same changes for 80-85%, we have to really work out on each and every prospect. So we can encourage in that type of electrification is really a change. What are the benefits exactly, and what are the cost benefits? I eventually can make a confident appeal that definitely if we are proving down and giving them a payback of some particular studies in certain scale, they can directly can be changed down. That is not an issue. And coming down with the emissions, right now I can just give a better example of my area. Right now we are in a place in Chandrapur where every area has been circulated has settled down with the cement cluster, coal production, both underground and open cast. Other than that, there are steel factories and other and carbon emission and this one. Right now we are the number one in India where we are facing a lot pollution on our trucking. So government are taking steps, but eventually by planting of trees and planting that would not be help. If small change in our approach in the mining industry, that may reduce the emission levels from 10. Now what 10 to CO2 is going come down to near about 8 to 9, we can make it up. So eventually after going with this in some years, we can reduce it to the emission in very propagated manner because 70 to 80% of the operation is with the diesel and emission of diesel, you know that it's much more implication as compared to this one. So if electrification comes down in a whole manner, I can challenge it out by 2050. What Dalmi has also made a thing by 2030, 50 will be a negative carbon emission company.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. And now we see that we have exhausted our time limit and we have gone 2 minutes beyond. Even I personally have a range of questions. Maybe I'll come back to you over mails and something and we can discuss there. So we are now about to wrap this session. So any concluding remarks from our panelists in 1 or 2 lines, that would be great.
Yeah, Basha,
Mr.
thanks. Literally a good eye opener on the electrification and good little bit of ideas what we were having. We can just share it out with the panel and as well as with the audience who is hearing down to us. And thanks to Rahul ji and thanks to the team who has invited us the panel and making us introductions to two or other guests who are eventually very much typing in the particular segments and for. So thanks a lot, Yuraj. Thanks a lot, Raghavendra ji. And we'll be in touch. And thanks a lot, Barsha, for participating and giving us chance to speak on it. Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Yuvraj.
Yeah, I would also like to extend thanks to the Manifold team for organizing this. And Varsha, you've been a great moderator. Kudos to you. Some very, very interesting questions from the audience. I'm very happy to see that kind of interest. And my co-panelists, Raghavendra ji, Ashish ji, I have really enjoyed having this conversation. I really look forward to connect with you after this and take this mission forward. Idea is we need to together, as I said, collaborate and take this industry to a more sustainable paradigm. So look forward to it. Thank you once again.
Yeah, Mr. Raghavendra.
Sure. I mean, given that heavy duty vehicle segment as a whole is like the holy grail that needs to be electrified or, at least go to net zero. It is definitely a great, segment. At the same time, since, the industry has already begun, we're still a nascent industry, possibly 1 year old as a whole, compared to, let's say, buses or LC, which are, close to 3 to 5 year kind of age. So given that there is a lot of learning curve for everyone, entire ecosystem to go through. And yes, and this is a segment ultimately for our country, given that we import most of our diesel, it is something that we have to, focus as much as possible, both from the consumer side as well as the government side. So this is a problem that all of us, together need to solve. And definitely great to have my co-panels here.
Thank you, dear panelists. So from today's discussion, to wrap up, I would mention that there lies a lot of challenges in the mining sector as well as a lot of opportunities. But the key to cracking this difficult, hard to abet sector is about collaboration, partnership, and lots of knowledge sharing. So with that, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, dear panelists, and we can wrap up. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Barsha.
you.
Thank you.